Hello. Hello. Hopefully in a minute we'll get quite a few people on, but generally it takes a while for that to happen. I'll remove the card because that was on the last stream. I'm doing an actual video about the subject that's on the card, so we'll wait for the results on that one. Hopefully in a few moments we'll actually get the stats how many people are watching, because that's always slow to update. Those who have a sticker in their name. Oh, I see what you mean. Yeah, I'm alright, thanks. I already did a video on a homemade gas mask. It sort of worked, but as I said, there's no point really making your own. Yeah, steel pot helmets, but it's going to depend totally on the inside liner, like any helmet. Yeah, the homemade filter work better than the homemade gas mask, to be fair. C3 lenses, I think, are basically just glass. Because it's basically a British light anti-gas respirator. Light anti-gas respirator Mark II is pretty much the same thing as the sort of Canadian C3. There's very few differences between them. No, you literally just use eBay. You can use eBay and then change the eBay web address to try and find other stuff. It should come up if you're searching properly. Yeah, S6 is fine. The straps are a bit crap on the S6 because it's the older style of British straps I don't really like. But the mask itself is very good, but as I've said, it can make you feel a bit nauseous if you wear it for too long because of the fisheye effect. Well, you technically can't legally, so I won't answer that because it would be banned under the Violent Crime Reduction Act as an imitation firearm. Only issue of the M15 has said if you're in a hot climate it's not great because when you start sweating, although the sweat can drain out the bottom, there's nothing stopping the sweat going in your eyes of an M15. And the exhale valve's in a bit of a strange place. The exhale valve is right at the bottom, which is annoying if you're trying to use it with an NBC suit. I played all the Fallout games. Yeah, that's the SHMS Sheep-Eve. Sometimes incorrectly called the SCHMS. Right, are we going to cover the entire Fallout series of that? And I take it I can't have something like a Fat Man or the Alien Blaster. I'm trying to think if there's any kind of unique weapons from Fallout that are sort of more interesting. But probably it's like one of the laser or plasma rifles because they're cool. And you know, it's not just like saying a generic military rifle. My favourite Fallout game's New Vegas. New vid schedules, as I've already said, Wednesday, Friday and Sunday, although I've got a video that's coming out at some point saying that, but with the video schedule, although I've started my new job, it won't switch that schedule straight away, because there's a few more videos on the regular times before there's the announcement video and the schedule starts, but I'm doing a kitchen porter job, which is basically just lots of cleaning. But okay, Mike. But yeah, it's £8 an hour, doing 9-hour shifts Saturday, Sunday. So it means I'm pretty busy at the weekend, but you know, it's good money, so I can't complain. Yeah, S10 outserts are very expensive, so £30 is pretty typical because they're quite rare. Far less outserts are made than S10s. Not really. There's some logic to it, but not really. It's kind of one of those myths from World War One as well, where apparently soldiers were issued piss masks, which really wasn't true. But in World War One, it also depends what kind of gas it is as well. The logic is the slight bit of ammonia and urine helps to break down certain types of gas, but in reality it doesn't really do anything. Yeah, Mausers are cool, but obviously I can't shoot one because I'm in the UK, or technically you could shoot a Mauser in the UK, because it would just be on the same as most other bolt-action rifles, but out of the bolt-action rifles I like the Enfields the best, because you've obviously got a 10 not a 5 round magazine, and the really fast action bolt. No, there's also the Bulgarian PG1, which looks like an M65, but is a bit better. Yeah, as you said, S10 outsets are generally expensive. You're going to pay more for the outsets than the mask. Yes, Spyro? I don't know, Google what Spetsnaz soldiers look like. And then, right, thank you very much. But yeah, you'd need to look that up. I think it's VDV are the ones with the stripe thing, aren't they? As you've donated, I'll actually have a look. But I know there's different branches of Spetsnaz as well, aren't there? Because there's like KGB Spetsnaz or something. Lots of them just seem to have Russian flora camouflage on, with Russian helmets of various types. I think it depends how retro you want it to look as well, because if you wanted the more retro Spetsnaz look, you can go with the different types of, what's it, like the frog spawn camo pattern? What's that one called? The partisan one, but... No, because I don't have any of the air tanks or anything like that, and firefighter respirators don't work unless you can have an air tank system with them. 1911, because it's a classic. The Browning High Power is my favourite out of all those old pistols, though. I'm in England, Harry. You type at and then the person's name. If you have a black powder pistol, you'd need obviously black powder for it as well, and shot, and then you'd need to like ball, basically ball shot, and I think you need to actually get a firearms license to legally shoot it. I'm saying that's legally anyway, because if in theory if you have something you can do whatever you want with it until you actually get arrested. I'll look up M84 camo. Is that the Danish camo? Yeah, it's a Danish one. Yeah, my friend's got an M84 shirt. The problem is I've never seen any surplus M84 that's either not been really expensive or not been really faded. I think it's probably a better idea to buy it on a Gore-Tex coat or something, because that's when they tend not to fade as much. But again, it's another camo pattern where if they replace the black in it with dark brown, it would be a better camouflage pattern, because 2 shades of green and dark brown would work better. But it's an alright camo, but you'd need to be in a very green environment for it to work. Well, the gas mask and Stalker protect your head from bullets slightly, I think, which is unrealistic. But they do provide lung protection. But Stalker's mechanics are a bit odd with that, because it's just like it gives you a booster defense, it doesn't totally protect you. I've said before, the Punisher, what I'd do is probably get a big kind of polycarbonate visor thing, and then have a filter connected to that, and then just like a rubber seal to make it face tight. But basically it'd be like a full panoramic kind of view thing, a bit like the Vista Vision is. Yeah, I like 44 dot and a lot of the German World War II camos, and some of the Soviet World War II camos are cool, and British brush strokes cool. Most World War II camos are pretty cool, even if some are not as effective as others. In London, there's no different laws on air rifles compared to anywhere else in the UK. I mean, Scotland's where the laws are much worse. I think Northern Ireland as well. But in London, you can still go to a gun shop and buy an air rifle because you're in England. There's no specific law in London itself. I'm not really interested in getting CO2 air rifles, to be honest, because I just like break barrels, because obviously all the energy to shoot it's in there. CO2 ends up being the most expensive way to shoot air guns. PCP is cheaper in the long run. I got off eBay years ago. If you want a Mark III right helmet, if you get one. If you don't want a Mark III, don't get it. I never get those questions. Should I get something? It depends if you want it or not, doesn't it? There's nothing wrong with the Mark III. The only thing that annoyed me of my Mark III is it wasn't the advertised size, so the stickers inside it were wrong as well. 80s Flectarn, because the colours are a bit more vibrant. No, I've got a couple of airsoft pistols, but I don't have an air pistol. Because in the UK they have a 6 foot-pound energy limit, which is pretty weak, so I'd rather just have air rifles. Yeah, lots of nations just use olive green or sort of various brown type camos that are solid colours. They're fine, but obviously they have no destructive effects. Oh, you can still use it. There's nothing stopping using any out-of-date filter. If you mean will it still work, no guarantee at all. It's not been out of date too long, so maybe. No, I don't have a UCARA license because I've not been airsofting enough times. It sort of says about that in the video description. What do you mean by a gas hood? Like a PH gas hood? If it was tied around your neck, then yes. I have to look up that particular hat. Well, I don't have one of those. I mean, I like the look of those, but I don't have anything like... I actually have a German Flectarn one that's not too dissimilar to that. You can also get some companies that make them in custom prints, apparently, but I obviously wouldn't walk around with one with a Totenkopf on it, for obvious reasons. The problem isn't so much your eyebrows, the problem is your forehead sweats and then it drips into your eyes. And you can't really glue anything in that wouldn't break the seal, I should think, or damage the mask. Like I said, the exhale valve problem with the M15 is just simply it's the very bottom of the mask, which means it won't work with lots of NBC suits, because they need to seal up where the valve is, and the valve gets in the way. If you want a cheap air rifle, get a BSA Hornet. I think you mean a Shemag, don't you, whatever it's called, not a Shemog. Probably the Institute. No, Plague Doctor's mark. Well, they might have protected you from dust, but they had no actual protective qualities, as I've covered in videos before, because they didn't understand how germs worked. I mean, yeah, if I play something or watch a film and I see a cool outfit, I will do a video in that style. I guess Soviet Ushanka should probably be like £10 or something. It shouldn't be very much at all because of how mass produced they are. Yeah, the M15 is a very good mask. Like I said, there's a couple of like what I'd consider design flaws with it, but you have to bear in mind it was a mask designed in the 70s that's just still being made. Yeah, I don't use it very much though, like a lot of my knives. Generally my little legal knives are the ones that get the most use. Like my machetes and that don't. It depends, some are in date, some are out of date. You have to look at the seller. Generally the sellers with in-date ones charge more than the out-of-date ones, so you just have to look up and see. Yeah, Fushida F2 is good, I did a video on it, but I only have the A4 version, not the standard F2. I've never seen C3 outserts for sale. Probably either Canadian C4 or an Avon M50 for a mask I want but don't have. I don't really believe that it should be €70 because they made so many of them. That's like saying a GP5 should cost loads, not really. I don't have any Korean gas masks. There was in World War One and World War Two, not anymore because there's no need for them. Just like I don't think anybody makes horse gas masks anymore because you don't use cavalry in modern armies. Single filter masks, as I've been over several times. People already asked in the stream, Peach, if the S6 was good, and I said it was, but I don't like the straps on the S6. And the other thing I don't like with the S6 is obviously the lenses that give you a really good field of view, but they make you feel sick after a while. £30 for an S6, I'd say. Avon FM12. I've already done videos on recommended masks, so watch those. I've covered quite a lot of price points in my videos, but I don't generally recommend anything really expensive because you don't need to pay that. You know, I'm never going to buy a brand new gas mask for it, really, unless there was one that's really cheap, because why? Because if you can get something that's a couple of years old and it's down to £30, not like £300, getting a, you know, like it at 10% of the original price is a pretty good knockdown for something that's a couple of years old. That gets asked in nearly every stream, Terminator. AR-15 over an AK-47, but an AK-74 over an AR-15. That's actually a harder one in New Vegas. Because NCR are pretty useless. Caesar's Legion would fall apart when Caesar dies. I don't really like Mr. House. I mean, out of all the factions, like the weird ones, like the Boomers are probably better, but they're, yeah, Camo air rifles are very good. My BSA air rifle's technically a Camo, because Camo owns BSA. Well, obviously bear in mind I haven't shot any of them, but something like the SIG 550 series, where, you know, they're like just very high quality Swiss assault rifles. No, I'm not even going to buy Fallout 76 because Bethesda won't even tell people what the game's about. I think it's going to be a shitty Battle Royale cash-in game. That was just asked, Simon, did you miss it? I said I'd pick an AR-15 over an AK, but I'd pick an AK-74 over an AR-15. Also, I suppose a more fair comparison would be M16 versus AK, because you have to compare like the military versions, don't you, rather than the civilian rifle and the military one. I'm a fanboy for Avon rubber, so I'd say Britain does, because America now uses Avon masks, Britain's going back to Avon masks, lots of European countries use Avon masks, I think Australia and New Zealand both use Avon masks. Not the one I've got of the red lenses, that's an Avon S10. As in the Steyr AUG, it had a lot of problems to begin with, I know that. I think they fixed most of it. Yeah, GP5 stretch. If they're on something that will stretch them out over time, they get looser and looser. I doubt it, because I'm not a Bethesda fan. Hence why New Vegas is my favourite Fallout game, because it's not made by Bethesda. They use the Avon M50. Although I've seen lots of American police and things with Avon FM12s. M17. Pretty much all of the M17 clones aren't as good as the original M17. I'd say the Polish MP4B is probably the best cheek filter mask I have. No, I don't think a nuclear war will happen. I find it interesting, but I don't think it would actually happen. And if it did, it wouldn't matter anymore, would it? Because that would be the end of everything. So it's before 1930. Are you sure it's not like a GM18? Never bought from them before, so I can't say yes or no. I like Morrowind, and then I didn't like the fact they kept dumbing their games down with every game. So I could still play Skyrim and enjoy it, don't get me wrong, and I can play Fallout 4 and enjoy it, but every time they make a new game there's less and less features in it. I might get one at some point, Peach, but I'll wait till I've got a bit more money first, also because, you know, buying things from abroad means UK customs might just steal it, and then I've lost my money. I'd assume so, as long as you have the right filters, but I don't know. I'll actually do a video on this because I think this might interest people, but I think a super flu would be the most dangerous because there's a bird flu epidemic that's now in Asia that seems to be getting worse and worse all the time, but there's not much media reporting on it. But in theory, when you get another strain of flu, like the Spanish flu, where you get basically a strain of any kind of flu that's got a very high mortality rate in humans, because of how easily flu epidemics spread, you'll basically have something that will kill quite a good percentage off of the Earth's population, like what happened with the Spanish flu. Probably 3-colour desert, not 6-colour desert. But I think they've only done like the 2. I like desert night, but I don't think that really counts because that's like a night vision falling thing. Maybe a poleaxe or something at some point, but as I've said before, room is an issue with all these things. This is why I've not even got any new gas masks for a while, because I really can't find space for them anymore. I used to play TF2 before they ruined it with all the updates. Overwatch is better than TF2 now because it's more like old TF2. It's a shame they just couldn't let you do a mode in TF2 where none of the updates are in there. Like maybe balance patches, but like none of the stuff where all the classes get different weapons and abilities, because that ruins the game. Most expensive gas mask I own is either my XM28 or my C7s, and they're not brilliant masks really in many ways. They're cool and rare, but they're not really brilliant. So I don't know if I could recommend it. Urban camos look cool, but I don't think they're that practical. I've seen there's some urban camos now which are meant to look like kind of textures of brick walls. In theory, a particulate filter does stop viruses if it's a P3 or a P100 filter. However, I think there's still some virus type things or bacteria where the particles are still too small and can get through. So I think that's why basically you see guys in hazmat suits with air tanks when they're actually, you know, they think they're going to be exposed to something really, really serious rather than using filters. Yeah, I'll do some more Stalker streams at some point, but I didn't feel like doing that tonight. Basically, to secure your house from flood, I've talked about this in videos before, but I'll do it if I do this sort of shit hits the fan video. Basically, it's just a case of if there is an epidemic that's really going around, you just don't go to work anymore, you don't do anything, you have to live off of canned foods till it dies out. It's basically just kind of keeping your house locked. No, I don't have any hazmat suits, and I have no need for them, and I wouldn't be able to use one because I don't have an air tank for it. Hazmat suits need air tanks. They're not NBC suits. That'd be pretty cool. Yeah, if you can get a modern thing for $40, yeah, why not? I think in some countries it means the same thing, but in most, it's not. Like a hazmat suit is far better than an NBC suit, but the issue is it's much bulkier and needs air tanks. Thanks for the offer, but I don't accept anything just because it's pretty dangerous if you're on YouTube to accept things from random people. So I don't have a PO box or anything like that, but thanks for the offer. And if you're sending it from outside the UK anyway, there's no guarantee I'd get it, because UK Customs, as I said, could steal it and then I'd never get it. Yeah, 60 to 40mm filter adapters are absolutely fine, because they're literally just a piece of plastic or metal. Ebola did come to England very briefly when they brought people back with it, but things like Ebola aren't that dangerous if you're not if you live in a country of good sanitation and everything like that. Lots of those diseases aren't dangerous. That's why flu is so dangerous, because it just spreads from people coughing and sneezing. As I said, I'm not even setting up a PO box because you can get in serious trouble if somebody sends you something illegal to your PO box. I mean, a PO box eliminates some of the danger, you know, much of the danger is giving your address out to people. But the issue is still, if somebody sends you something incredibly illegal to a PO box, you will still get done for it. Yeah, the smaller you activated charcoal, the better it works, but you don't need to. If the container is big enough, you don't need it ground up. It's just a volume thing. I have both. You can search my channel for the videos to see if I've got masks before you ask about them. No, I've not played Spore. Yeah, my day at work was good today, Mike. Obviously, I'm learning a bit more how everything works. It makes working there a bit easier. I was clearing a lot of tables today, which is pretty good at, you know, making time go fast. Where basically you get a massive load of, like a massive cart thing with loads and loads of shelves. You take it out. When people have finished their dinner, you just pile all their plates onto a tray and all their mugs. You put the tray on the rack. Then you just clean the tables off, fill up the rack, put the rack out into the washing line, then you take another cart and keep doing that. Mike doesn't normally do a stream, Richard, on Sundays unless he's doing playing a video game one. Or it depends how hot you get. If you're doing any type of exercise in a mask, it does become a big problem. Yeah, but lots of our laws are like that, Peach, where there's lots of things where you can legally buy something in the UK from like stores, and if there's then a legal problem with it, the shop doesn't get in trouble, you do. I don't have a Czech M1960 pack. I can have a look into it to see what it looks like, but so is that just a backpack? Yeah, it looks pretty decent. I've got like a big Belgian one made out of a waterproof material that's kind of a bit like that. But with that, I've got some coming up which are fabric ones, and others coming up which are just giant, like, gas mask material rucksacks. So I don't know which one you're thinking of, but both look alright. One of them looks more practical with the pockets on, but the other one's waterproof, so I don't know which would be, you know, the better one. Yeah, I'll be watching that later then, Mike. Well, homemade NBC suit, not a hazmat suit. It depends what sort of chemicals they are. Because the suit's not made out of butyl, it's made out of like those plasticky, rubbery raincoats. They'd work fine against lots of chemical weapons, but the nastier ones would eat through it fairly quickly. But it's still better than not having a suit. It's way better than not having a suit for most people. What sounds like modern day slavery? If you mean my job, I'm enjoying it. That's weird. My side missions didn't disappear unless they were side missions for a certain faction that you killed off, Mike. What are you on about Hot Fuzz for? What about the M69? I think I must have missed a comment there. I did a video on that tonight, BBD. For German gas masks, the M65 is alright. The M2000 is meant to be very good, but I don't have one. No, it was, Chris, but then I obviously had to get a job because, you know, real life. No, I've not played Wildlands. At some point, Mike, if it's cheap, get the Far Harbour DLC, because that's very good. You can play that at any point as well. You'll probably be a good level for doing it at the moment. I've played loads of games. Unless you mean Weapon Collector. I think he's streamed Fallout 4 and God of War. That completely means what you mean by a case of apocalypse. In most situations, if it's a proper world-ending apocalypse, you're doomed, aren't you? It wouldn't matter. Well, America, if this was like any country would give you asylum, America easily. What do you mean by Mark II? Do you mean the light anti-gas respirator Mark II? Or do you mean the Chinese M69? The Chinese M69, if I had one in a bigger size, would be a brilliant mask, but mine's a small size. When you say the new Fallout, do you mean Fallout 76? As I was moaning earlier in the stream, I'm not very interested because it looks like they're making some sort of battle royale game. Cool, sounds good, Richard. Well, are you sure it's not somebody who's just screwed a hose into one that takes a filter on the side? £30, Jonathan. That's generally the price you'd pay for him. Yeah, I've played Armour 1, Armour 2, Armour 3, the original Operation Flashpoint. Armour 2 is my favourite out of all of them. The original Operation Flashpoint's quite charming in a way. I'm not a big fan of Armour 3, to be honest, but I've not really played enough to give a good impression, because as I've said before, it's very badly optimised. And I can get it to run alright on my PC, but I have to turn so many things down to get it to run alright that I've, not bothered. There's two types of firearms license. There's a Section 1, Section 2. Section 1 is for rifles, Section 2 is for shotguns. The shotgun's easier to get. You basically have to get a form, fill it in, then the police investigate if you're a crazy person or not, or if you have any good reason to have it. I don't know which mask you mean then, but as there's so many Soviet gas masks, there could have easily been one that came out the cheek. I think some of the PDF, the children's masks, some of them had a hose that came out the side, because they did quite a few variants of it. Yeah, it'd rain, exactly. Yeah, I have swords, I've done videos on them before. Well, as I was saying earlier, Bethesda keep dodging questions on the Q&As, so they're not being honest about what sort of game they're making. We know Todd Howard's got a habit of lying constantly, so as I said, I have no interest in getting it. I don't understand why people get so funny when I say I don't want to buy a particular game, because I get that all the time. When I say I don't like something because I have my own opinion, people are like, no, if you just knew more about it, you'd like it. I think if I knew more about Fallout 76, I wouldn't like it even more. I'm just waiting for some more comments to come through now. Then I bet I'll have a massive burst and I won't be able to keep up with them. Yeah, tell me what's really in the game, or your pack fodder. You've reminded me of something now, though, that I'm going to post in the stream. Let me just grab it. There you go. For people asking about Bethesda, there's a good parody song for you. Yeah, if you've legally got somewhere you can go hunting. I've got a Cyma, it's one of their proper decent ones. It's M4 that's actually licensed by Colt, so it has all the official brand markings on and everything, and it's the exact weight of an M4. Won't answer questions like that, Peach, in case I incriminate myself in anything. Don't get what you're getting at with that, Spyro. Yeah, but I suppose it's the pole gives it loads more momentum, doesn't it, Richard? It's like force amplification, especially if you're swinging, like with the reverse kind of beak spike. That's where you can get loads of force on the swing. It really surprised me in mine how much damage I could do to like that aluminium bin. I know that's not very strong, but still, you know, it's like when you see what it does to some of the things you hit, it's really surprising. Not when it first comes out, I might get it when it's on sale. because, as I've said before, the Metro games is another one where it upsets people. I don't think they're bad games, but I don't think they're brilliant games, you know. I'd happily play them, but I wouldn't really want to spend much on them. And when people say you like Stalker or Metro more, I definitely like Stalker more, but unfortunately it's another one of those things where people keep telling me my opinion is wrong because I should like Metro loads and loads and loads. Like I said, I'm not answering anything that's incriminating. Oh yeah, I've obviously tried vodka. I've also tried 95% Polish vodka, which is basically drain cleaner. Burns the lining off your throat. You sure it wasn't those Israeli 4A1 masks where they just do the bong rip-offs in all the weird colour schemes, so somebody's got one of them and then they're selling it for loads of money? No, I haven't had a Call of Duty game in years and I'm not going to start now. I don't know, Hickok 45 smokes pots. I might have an Adidas tracksuit. I have a couple of like tracksuit type things, but I don't really wear them. Yeah, you're right, Richard. You do get a lot of force out of halberds. It's kind of obvious why they became the sort of standard infantryman's weapon for quite a long period, because, you know, it's like a more versatile version of a spear. I quite like that guy in New Vegas with the sniper rifle. What's his name? I like old Longfellow though in Fallout 4 actually as well. Some of them don't have that pocket though, this is the problem. Like with a lot of those things, then they don't seem to be too uniform. I don't think mine has an interior pocket, otherwise I'd use it. One of my East German shirts has this and the other doesn't. It has a Makarov pistol holster in it, and that is ideal for like putting your wallet in it. I've already done videos on Kevlar helmets. Yeah, Boone. Alright. What other companions are there though in New Vegas? I know there's the Ghoul. What's he, Raoul the Ghoul? There's also the Enclave Eyebot, isn't there? You can get the dog if you do that quest for the dog. Now we've been over the fact I haven't played Fortnite several times in this stream. Do you mean a Makarov or... I'll have a look at the G44. I'm seeing pictures of a gun called the G44, but I'm not familiar with it at all. What nation supposedly uses that? Or is it a fictional gun? Oh, it's a Metal Gear name, is it, for a gun that exists in real life, but they've had to change it for copyright reasons. So obviously if it's a fictional gun, no. Yeah, these streams can be a bit testing on the patience, that's why there's an FAQ in the description now. Yeah, I'll do Stalker again at some point, not tonight though. Oh, it depends, right? Do you mean, because there's different kinds of pancakes and there's different kind of waffles. I take it you mean kind of like the breakfast ones, which are like sugary. If you get the really good fresh pancakes and maple syrup, I really like those, but if it's just between like toasting pancakes and toasting waffles for, you know, like your grill at home, probably the waffles. Yeah, $20 is a very good price for an S10 with all the bits. Yeah, get it. You can tell that Spyro from my name on YouTube. Oh, actually, you'd get an answer where either one you'd be correct in guessing, but one's correct and one wouldn't be. I don't know, ask Google that. There's loads of things like the difference between a shovel and a spade, isn't there? Where a shovel's got like the pointed bit and the spade is flat. Generally over here we call them fairy cakes. I don't say it at all. Probably a Dragunov, because it's a really cool rifle. For that question up there I missed. I try not to stream if I know Mike's on, and I think it's the same with him. Now and again it will occasionally end up streaming stuff at the same time, but we don't try and stream over each other because half our audience would watch one stream and not the other. Why would you do that? Oh yeah, I don't understand why people keep saying, I found a gas mask really cheap, should I buy it? Obviously buy it if you want it, if not, don't keep asking. It's in the description, NZR Ranger. Literally right at the top of the description with the FAQ. It's right there. Black and white, clear as crystal. Yeah, and because we both have mod status on each other's streams, it means if people are trolling and one person's trying to concentrate on doing the stream, the other person can just keep removing the trolls. It's a good idea, Richard. If you're around somewhere where those exist, I'd urban explore them anyway, but there's none of those near me that aren't sort of properly, you know, guarded. No, I'd be crap at blacksmithing. I think it's really cool, but I'd just be crap at it, so I wouldn't even attempt it. Yeah, I like Alpenflage, but again, it's going to be very situational dependent. It's like, if I'm gonna, this autumn I'll definitely do a camo test with Alpenflage on, because I reckon Alpenflage would look really good in proper like orange and yellow and red kind of autumn leaves, but Alpenflage is one of those camos that I don't think would work in lots of environments, but it works in the environment it was designed for, so it's good. Well, what weapons do they have access to, Terminator? Because obviously the Chinese Communist Army has modern firearms, or at least, you know, World War II era firearms. World War I, World War II era firearms from the Chinese Civil War. But if the Confederates had the like same era of weaponry, I think the Confederates would win, because they were much better morale-wise. That sounds pretty cool. Yeah, I mean, a lot of those would have been already broken into and stuff would have been nicked or vandalised, but I mean, I'd still urbex stuff like that if it was around me, you know, and you could get in without breaking proper laws. Because where I am, there's not much urban exploration stuff anymore because of how quickly they convert stuff into, like, flats and things like that. There used to be an old American air base not too far from me, and that's one where some people have broken into to have a look around, but that's one where they actually have proper, like, guards and you would get done for it. Because I think it's actually like a proper offence to trespass there. It's not, you know, like a civil offence like some places. This is one where you will get hit by the full force of the law and you're like, you know, you're screwed if you get caught trespassing on those places, and I think a lot of that has now been knocked down anyway. If it's in really good condition, $50 is alright for one of those Gore-Tex raincoats. I really like mine, especially because the colours stay really bright on the raincoats, unlike regular camo. What's the 3 hours have? Unless you mean Weapon Collector's stream. If he does a 3-hour stream, I'm not doing a 3-hour stream. I'll probably go just over an hour. When you say surplus, do you mean ones that aren't still in production? Because you can still get technically surplus modern masks, and the CT12 being my favourite mask, mine was a surplus one. If you mean masks that are no longer made, probably the SHMS. Like the S10 is technically completely surplus now because the S10's an old mask, but I still just say SHMS. Iron Man Spartan, for that one, it depends what kind of light you're looking into. If you're looking for like a windproof jet lighter, I've got that one in the orange case that floats, and the case is kind of like there to protect the lighter from impacts and things as well. That survival lighter is really, really good, but although that again has some little design flaws which for me wouldn't make a difference, but somebody using it in a real survival scenario it could cause problems. But I really like the old IMCO lighters because they're very primitive and built like a tank. But again, they're not. It's hard to actually get an IMCO lighter, so I'd probably say that's survival one. Do you mean FP5 filters? Yes, they do. They work on any GOST mask. If it's a GOST mask, they work on it. If it's a NATO mask, they work on it. That's cool, finding a bit of a plane. I like tomato soup. I'm boring like that. Yeah, if it's thick smoke, it'll work against it, but if it's like really small micron smoke, then no, but against regular smoke it should work. Yeah, the metal clippers are good. The only thing with those, for like survival reasons, they don't have like a wind guard on them like Zippos do, and the IMCOs. So if it's a windy day, they're going to keep blowing out. That's the only issue with those. I mean, I know you can cup your hand around it. Yeah, you could consume liquid food. As long as it's not really thick, it should go for a drinking tube fine if you filled a canteen with it. Probably very rural Scotland, I'd imagine. But that's not in England, that's in Britain. In England, maybe the Lake District, but I think you'd be screwed in England. If you look at the megaton yields of modern nuclear weapons, and you consider how many nuclear weapons would hit England in the event of a mutually assured destruction, we'd be completely doomed. No, I quit smoking like 2 years ago. IEDC knives, yeah, IEDC legal carry knives most of the time. If I'm somewhere where I've got a justifiable excuse, I sometimes have a lock knife on me. If I'm around the house, I often have a lock knife on me, but that's just for doing utility where I'm allowed one on my own private property. Right, when you say F5 filter, again, I assume you mean an FP5 filter. It's got like a papery kind of particulate filter in there, and then activated charcoal impregnated with all the things that stop various gases, same as any real modern filter. I don't think it's got chromium in either. The EDL doesn't exist anymore as far as I'm aware. I support Tommy Robinson, though, for not being arrested and persecuted for freedom of speech violations, whatever it was. If it was the original Dawn of the Dead scenario, I think I'd have to bug out. Because I could get my car, I know a load of the roads might be like horribly blocked, but I could get my car, if say that's filled up with petrol, I get good fuel economy. I could get about 400 to 500 miles on a single tank. Let me just check something. Yeah, it's... this isn't... let me just try and do this on Google Maps, because I'm just really interested in kind of knowing this for... Right, from Devon to Skye, so that's like very south England to very north Scotland, although it depends whereabouts in Scotland you look at, consider it to be the north. That would be almost 700 miles. My car can do 400 to 500 miles on a single fuel tank, so to give you some idea, I could get to most places in the UK from where I am. I'm obviously not in Devon. So if I had my car and we assume the roads aren't blocked, I could get in my car with silver petrol. I could get pretty damn far on a single fuel tank. Obviously my boot and everything and inside the car would let me carry a lot of equipment. So yeah, I think I'd bug out. You'd have to try and find somewhere that seems secure, because a regular house isn't going to be very good protection from zombies, I don't think. That's cool, Sheep Eve. I don't know how good they are for showing you how to care for a gas mask, especially because old ones are so different to new ones. But there are some very good World War II and American training films about, like, you know, protection from certain gases and what to do if you come into contact with those gases, so they're very good. Not to a realistic extent, James. I've done some for, like, videos, but not that I'd really need. It might work have until the pressure breaks the valves, so it depends how deep you go. But again, there's lots of problems with like air pressure and stuff like that as you go down deeper and deeper. Well, the screen size for me hasn't changed at all. I know a load of people have been complaining about it being bigger and cutting off bits of screen, but for me it's the same size it always was. Unless you go so far back, you're on about 4:3 resolutions. It's pretty much impossible unless you get the proper inserts for a mask, or you get a mask where you can balance your glasses on the outside. There's lots of gas kits that you can get, but a lot of them are old equipment. I do know this is kind of interesting, that when Poland, you know, like Poland's a NATO member now and everything, Poland got a lot of stick because they didn't buy like fancy new American gas detectors. They were still using the old communist ones, and everybody was saying, oh, it's because the Poles are so poor they can't afford the modern equipment. But it actually turns out when they were tested, the old communist gas things work better than the modern American electric ones do, because the material is far more sensitive on the inside. Butterfly knives are illegal in the UK. The law's quite grey on like the trainer type ones as well, despite them not being knives, so that's why I've not done any more videos of my Balisong trainer. I don't even know where my trainer is for that, saying that. I'm sure it's in a drawer somewhere. The only Reddit boards I ever go on are just some of the YouTube type ones, to see what people are like talking about to do with YouTube, but a lot of those are people who don't know much about YouTube, to be honest. Or whenever there's a big problem on YouTube, they then get sidetracked by something else and they all start talking about something else. So if you want to look at one of those YouTube Reddits to find out why your views are actually going down or anything like that, you're in the wrong place. I don't think there is any truth to that. I've heard some people say with some of the cheek filter masks there were still new filters, but every time I've tried to look into it, they're just old stock of filters which people think are new, but they're not. I've been on some of the gas mask things before on Reddit, and again it's just people talking about GP5s all the time, which, like I said, is why I'm never a member of any of these gas mask communities. Because it always ends up being people just talking about GP5s non-stop because they're such a cheap mask. Do you mean atropine? I don't know when atropine expires, but I would highly advise you never to mess about with atropine because you're not trained to use it. So you're most likely... Right, this person's been blocked because they just keep asking questions in the FAQ or are silly. No, the M17 has like what they call pork chop filters, where they look a bit like a pork chop. the PBF has like these kind of oval shaped filters that are much thicker. PBF filters would actually last much longer in contaminated environments than M17 filters. I don't think M17 filters necessarily fit all the copies of M17s either. I think often they have slightly different shaped filters in each. I'm just saying generally whenever I've looked on any sort of community things, it's all about GP5s or other really common masks, or people saying, is this filter safe, is that filter safe, and I just don't find that very interesting, because it's very rarely somebody saying, oh look, I found a cool rare mask. In some of those communities as well, it's people who like to dick wave over they've got a mask that's technically rarer than somebody else's mask. I really don't care, I just find gas masks interesting. No, I don't do any hunting or fishing. That's not to say I'm opposed to it or anything, it's just there's nowhere near me I could really legally do it. I mean, I know that I could go to the canal and pay for a fishing licence, but I don't really want to do that. Which M3 is that? Do you mean the Serbian M3? I've never seen them for sale, because I said if I saw one for a decent price I'd buy one of those. But, what do you mean, like one of the old American M3 masks? You have to specify which mask you mean. But, with the... do you mean a P3 mask? Or do you mean a 3M? Now you're confusing me even more. America and Russia are not best mates. We're kind of going into a new Cold War. They were probably best mates with Putin and, George W. Bush. Cool, glad you liked the video. I won't be on too much longer because we're coming up to an hour now and I want to have a drink and everything, so... Just like I said, I've been at work 9 hours today, so Oh, for the people that were interested, because I had somebody support me on Patreon and asked me if I could do this more as like a private thing, but I'm going to actually do a YouTube video on it. I will do a video now on the War Emergency Guidebook and just hope I don't get gulagged, but I will obviously omit certain parts of it. You're probably not going to be able to read it all that well though, because a lot of the pages are kind of like typewritten, you know, like how an old typewriter would type it, so often the ink's quite faded. Yeah, if you mean do 3M masks work and are they justified for the price, yeah, if you're going to be getting a mask for doing serious stuff, 3M half-face masks are very good, but, you know, a surplus mask with a good filter will also work for those things. The Patreon link's in the video descriptions. Basically, it's just a site where you can donate money, that's all it is. It's a bit like the YouTube Super Chat thing. But yeah, it's like a completely optional thing. Obviously, big thank you to the people who do it. But like I said, Patreon's totally optional, and the only reward I have for my Patreon is a Discord server where people, a lot of people just shitpost all the time. Probably like the .4444 ones, you know, the ones that were like flecked on. Now, the Doomsday Clock is a thing where it's when it hits midnight would supposedly be when nuclear war happens, so it's like the closer you are to midnight, the closer you are to nuclear, sort of mutually assured destruction. So throughout, you know, like the 20th century and modern day, it's like they keep adjusting it closer or further away to midnight, but I don't think the Doomsday Clock is necessarily very good, because it seems to be a bit political now, because they don't like Trump. They're saying Trump's made us closer to nuclear war than we've ever been in history, was one thing I heard. Despite the fact the closest we came to nuclear war was during the Able Archer War Games in, I think, 1983? I'm pretty sure it was 83. Let me have a look. Yeah, it was 83. It was when NATO did a war game. East Germany told the Russians that they thought it was planning for an actual invasion, and why all the Eastern Bloc was on high alert. A Soviet satellite picked up what it thought was a nuclear missile. The system went on to automatic retaliation mode, and the guy aborted it because he said, why would they send only one missile? It turned out he was right, and it was like the satellite screwing up, like a sunspot or something caused the thing to go off. But then they gulagged him for cancelling the launch. So the man that saved the world got gulagged, but I think he's since been given a lot of medals by Putin. We were on about that earlier though, Jacob, amazing. With the magazine, it's like 3 something kilos, I think. It's not too unmanageable. It's a long rifle, but they're still, it's pretty close to the weight of an activated one, obviously. The magazine I've not got filled with rounds that are shootable, so I don't get the extra weight with the magazine in there, but yeah, it's 3 something kilos. No, we were on about that earlier, generic user. Sadly, I've never seen any for sale, even though they look cool. No, I've not watched whatever video that is, Dimmy. It depends. If it's canned food, it's probably alright, but I think supposedly if there was a nuclear war, it would be at least 3 years before you could grow edible food again. So yeah, most people would die after a nuclear war if they weren't wiped out in the initial blasts. Right, bye. Yeah, saying that, I watched The Holy Grail the other day. I've seen Life of Brian quite a few times. Well, I'm on about the films at the moment, not the TV series. I've got The Meaning of Life to watch at some point. But yeah, it's gone over an hour now, hasn't it? So I'll probably finish this stream fairly soon. As I think Mike said he's starting his stream in about half an hour, isn't he? And I said I'm pretty tired because I was at work for 9 hours today, at work for 9 hours yesterday. So my time off is now during the week. Canned food that doesn't go off within like a year or so, and that can be eaten raw ideally. So any canned fruit that will keep for a while. Some of the canned fruit is very sugary as well, which is good in a survival scenario. But you can probably find very good prepping guides that will tell you exactly. As I've said before, we do not keep loads of food in this house. We have a week or two's supply in case of emergency, and that's about it. Right, thank you very much, James. Glad you enjoy the videos. But yeah, as said, I will be finishing the stream about now because, like I said, I'm fairly tired and I want to go have a drink and other stuff. So I will see everybody when I see you. I hope to do a stream during the week as well, but I don't know which day yet. So alright, I'll see you then.